Welcome back, guys, for NRL Tippers. Review on last week's round 23. We have come short. We got 2 mistakes 6 out of 8, which an overall of 75%. NRL round 23 ladder update. This week's round 24. Sea Eagles vs Panthers. Lodge the latest injury blow. Tago on track. Thursday night marks the start of what will be a season-defining fortnight for the Sea Eagles when they take on a red-hot Panthers side who haven't lost since the middle of June. Penrith meanwhile remain on track to wrap up their second consecutive minor premiership, after making light work of the fourth-ranked Storm last week in a 26-6 win. Penrith haven't lost to Manly since way back in June of 2018 and have won by at least 22 points in 4 of the last 5 meetings. Earlier this year the Panthers won 44-12 at Bluebet Stadium. Team news. Sea Eagles. Already without key big men Taniela Paseka and Josh Aloiai, losing mid-season recruit Matt Lodge to a knee injury last week was a big blow for Manly. Ben Condon is likely to come back into consideration and Aaron Woods could move back into a starting role. Winger Christian Tuipulotu is likely still another week away from returning from his own knee injury. Panthers. Center Isaac Tago was in the mix to return from a leg injury before being withdrawn from the squad late last week, but will be a good chance of coming back into the side in place of Zach Hosking in round 24. Jerome Luai will be eligible to play if he enters an early guilty plea and accepts a monetary fine for a Grade 1 careless high tackle charge picked up last week. Stat attack. Penrith have conceded just 242 points this season, 122 points less than the NRL's next best defensive outfit, the Warriors. The Sea Eagles have kicked a competition-high 540/20ths this year, with hooker Lachlan Croker having 3 to his name and Daly Cherry Evans 2. In 8 games at Four Pines Park this year the Sea Eagles have 5 wins. I'm going to tip Panthers for this round. Sharks vs Titans. Mulitalo a chance. Tino makes timely return. A commanding performance last week halted the Sharks' worrying recent slide, while the Titans suffered a huge blow to their finals hopes despite putting up a brave fight. That ability to generate attack from all over the field saw them remain right in the game against the Warriors in round 23, despite playing 64 minutes a man down after Moeaki Fotuaika was sent off. The Sharks have had it all over the Titans in recent times and head into this clash boasting 8 straight wins over them, stretching back to 2014. PointsBet Stadium, however, has been a fairly happy hunting ground for the Gold Coast with wins in 3 of their past 5 trips. Team news. Sharks. After being a late withdrawal from the squad last week as he battles a jaw injury suffered in the lead up to round 22, Kiwi test winger Ronaldo Mulitalo will be given every chance to take the field, with Mwen Hiroti set to be the standby option again. Oregon Kaufusi missed round 23 after breaking his finger and a timeframe on his return remains unknown. Titans. Captain Tino Fa'asuamaliaui returns from suspension and will be a straight replacement for Moeaki Fotuaika, who will miss the game through suspension after taking an early guilty plea on the careless high tackle charge which followed his sending off last week. There is hope AJ Brimson could be fit to go after falling short in his bid to come back in round 23, but if not the backline is set to remain unchanged. Stat attack. On average the Sharks make more handling errors, 9.6 per game, than any side this season bar the West's Tigers. As a starting fullback this year Jaden Campbell averages 190 run meters per game. Nico Hines leads the NRL in line break assists in 2023, averaging 1.7 per game. I'm tipping Sharks. Broncos vs Eels. Reynolds races clock. Same 17 likely. The Broncos continue to answer every challenge thrown at them in their pursuit of a first minor premiership since 2000 and will fancy their chances of knocking off the Eels in front of a big crowd at the Gabba. When the sides clashed in Darwin in round 8 the Broncos prevailed 26-16 on a night which saw Payne Haas suspended for a hip drop tackle that left Eels big man Reagan Campbell-Gillard sidelined for 7 weeks. The 2 big men won't get to renew their rivalry this weekend with Campbell-Gillard out suspended, so Haas will turn his attention to matching motors with Junior Paulo in a battle for supremacy in the middle. Team news. Broncos. Skipper Adam Reynolds groin, and forward Kobe Hetherington, backcourt look set to return after missing the Cowboys game. Winger Jesse Arthur's head knock looks unlikely to play but center Herbie Farnworth, knee, should be right to go. Eels. No injury concerns after the narrow win over the Dragons, and with Reagan Campbell-Gillard and Micah Sivo having one more game to serve on their suspensions, the Eels could roll out the same squad for the trip to Brisbane. Stat Attack. The Broncos 534 points, and Eels 533, are ranked 1 and 2 for points scored this season. The Broncos have now won 5 games in a row twice this season, from round 1 to 5 and round 18 to 24 by in round 19. I'm going to tip Broncos for this round. Rabbitohs vs Dragons. Shaq in for Burgess, Lomax, Molo sidelined. Tipped by many to be a premiership contender in 2023, the Rabbitohs find themselves in a scrap just to make the top 8, and they face a danger game against old foes the Dragons. With Latrell Mitchell back on deck and the Sharks seemingly on the slide, Souths were expected to prevail in Perth and stay in the hunt for a top 4 spot. Instead, they were blown off the park for the first hour and slid to 8th spot after a 10-point loss. Team news. Rabbitohs. Thomas Burgess will need his team to make the finals if he is to play again this season after copping a 3-match ban for a careless high tackle in Saturday's loss to the Sharks. Shaquai Mitchell takes over at prop. Jay Arrow has been named despite being forced from the field with back spasms in Perth. Jacob Host comes into the back row at the expense of Michael Cheekham, while Tane Milne regains his place on the wing after being 18th man last week. Dragons. Prop Francis Molo is out after displaying Category 1 concussion symptoms following a head clash against the Eels, so brother Michael moves to the front row. Ben Murdoch-Masila is the new lock, and Toby Cushman is added to the bench. Center Moses Suli is back on deck after missing the Eels game with a calf injury, and Max Feagai also comes into the centers with Zach Lomax sidelined by a shoulder injury. Jack Bird has also suffered a shoulder injury and will consult a specialist. Stat Attack. Dragons winger Mikaele Ravalawa has scored 18 tries in 17 games in 2023. His previous best haul in a season was 14 in 2021. Rabbitohs winger Alex Johnston leads the NRL in line breaks with 29 and has scored 16 tries in his last 12 games. The Dragons have lost 7 games by 6 points or less in 2023. The Dragons are aiming for 3 straight wins over the Rabbitohs for the first time since 2010-11. The Rabbitohs have conceded over 30 points in 6 of their past 10 games. The Rabbitohs have won only 1 of their past 4 games in Cairns. I'm going to tip Rabbitohs. West Tigers vs Warriors. Stefano back on deck. Tuaupiki new number 1. West's Tigers are the home team in Hamilton on Saturday, but it's the red-hot Warriors who will have the crowd in their corner as they surge towards a top 4 finish. The Warriors sit third after getting the job done against the Titans, and with their remaining 4 matches against sides outside the top 8, they are in the box seat for a double chance in September. Team news. West's Tigers. Forwards Stefano Utoikamanu and Sean Bloor return from concussion in a boost for West's Tigers, but Charlie Staines is out with a hamstring injury, so Junior Tupou shifts to the wing and Asu Kepaoa comes into the centers. Alex Twal goes back to the bench to accommodate Utoikamanu's return. Justin Matamua moves to 18th man and Ada C. James to the reserves. Warriors. Tane Tuaupiki will play his 4th game of the season, taking over at fullback from Charns Nickel Klokstad, head knock, in the only change to the squad that downed the Titans last week. Stat Attack. West's Tigers have come up with 240 offloads this season, second only to the Eels with 283. Warriors prop Aden Fanua Blake averages 170 run meters per game this season and 64.4 post-contact meters per match. West's Tigers have been outscored 48-6 in their past 2 games in New Zealand. The Warriors have won their past 5 games against West's Tigers. West's Tigers winger David Nofaluma has scored 8 tries in 12 games against the Warriors. The Warriors will play their 700th game since entering the competition in 1995. West's Tigers have conceded 40 tries in their past. I'm going to tip Warriors. Roosters vs Dolphins. Napa gets his shot. Stone good to go. The Roosters and Dolphins clash for the second time in NRL history on Saturday night, 6 months on from one of the biggest upsets of the season. Both these sides last met in round 1 for the Dolphins' inaugural clash in the NRL, with Wayne Bennett's side springing an upset at Suncorp Stadium on an historic day for the game's 17th team. Team news. Roosters. Veteran forward Dylan Napa comes in for the suspended Nathan Brown in the only change to Trent Robinson's squad. Napa's last NRL appearance came in 2021 for the Bulldogs. The 30-year-old has played 13 games in NSW Cup for the Roosters this season. Dolphins. Ray Stone returns from the broken hand he suffered in round 20 against the Panthers. Stone comes onto the bench, pushing Herman Essayas to 18th man. Cody Nikorima is named at fullback and Hamaso Tabuai Fido in the centers, but they may switch on game day given that Hammer has played 15 of his 17 games in the number 1 jersey. Ewan Aitken is at least another week away. Stat attack. Dolphins winger and leading points scorer Jermaine Isako has scored 19 tries in 20 NRL games this season. The Dolphins have won only 2 of their last 10 matches. The Roosters have made more tackles than any other NRL team in 2023. The Roosters are aiming for their first back-to-back wins since April. Dolphins coach Wayne Bennett has won 8 of his past 10 games against the Roosters. Roosters winger Daniel Tupou has scored 5 tries in his past 4 games. Roosters 5/8 Luke Keary will make his 200th NRL appearance. I'm going to tip Roosters. Storm vs Raiders. Hughes, Coates return, strange to debut. A big loss to the Panthers has set them back on their heels, but the Storm will be out to prove they're still a premiership heavyweight when they host the Raiders, who sit just one place behind them on the ladder. Craig Bellamy's side will be out for redemption after their last meeting saw the 8th-placed Raiders end their 2022 campaign at home in a Week 1 finals upset at Amy Park. Meanwhile, the Raiders managed to get the 2 points over the West's Tigers on Sunday, but will need to find a way to clean up their errors and discipline after completing just 4 from 12 sets in the first 20 minutes of the round 23 match. Team news. Storm. Halfback Jarome Hughes, ankle, and winger Xavier Coates, hip, are back on deck, while center Remies Smith is listed among the reserves as he looks to return from a hip injury. Bronson Garlick is the new face on the bench, taking the place of Tyron Wishart, who drops to the reserves. Raiders. With the Raiders confirming Seb Chris hamstring will likely spend the remainder of the season on the sideline, NSW under-19 star Ethan Strange will make his NRL debut in the centers. No other changes to Ricky Stewart's squad. Stat attack. The Storm have won 7 of their past 8 games in Melbourne. The Raiders have won their past 5 games at Amy Park. Storm hooker Harry Grant has scored 5 tries in his past 4 games in Melbourne. Raiders fullback Jordan Rapana has scored 5 tries in 8 games at Amy Park and requires 2 tries to rack up 100 for the club. Tip Storm. Knights vs Bulldogs. Bradman out. Thompson makes it back. The Knights' 5-game winning streak has carried them into the top 8 and brought their finals hopes well and truly to life as they head into a must-win match against the Bulldogs. The Knights came from behind to get the job done against the Dolphins in Perth, and while coach Adam O'Brien knows his side wasn't at their best on Saturday, he took heart from their ability to orchestrate a gutsy second-half comeback. With matches against the Rabbitohs, Sharks and Dragons to come after, it will be vital Newcastle take advantage of their favourites' tag and home advantage and get the job done against Cameron Ciraldo's side if they want to be taken seriously as premiership contenders. Meanwhile, the Bulldogs had a chance to recharge the batteries after their Golden Point victory in Bundaberg and will fancy their chances of a round 24 upset, with Viliame Kikau looking to make up for lost time in the back end of the season and new halves pairing Toby Sexton and Matt Burton showing promising signs for the future. Team news. Knights. Star center Bradman Best has been sidelined with an adductor injury, so Aneri Tuala comes in. Prop Jacob Safety has been named despite suffering a hamstring injury against the Dolphins. Daniel Safety is listed among the reserves and could be a late call-up as he works his way back from a quad injury. Bulldogs. Englishman Luke Thompson will play his first NRL game of the season, replacing Harrison Edwards on the bench in the only change to the side that beat the Dolphins before the bye. Thompson suffered a foot injury in preseason and finally made it back on the paddock in NSW Cup a fortnight ago, playing 32 minutes off the bench. Stat attack. Bulldogs hooker Reid Mahoney is leading the competition in 40/20ths with 4 for the season so far. Knights winger Dom Young needs 1 try to equal the club record for most tries in a season, which is held by Timana Tahu and Akuila U8 with 21. Knights winger Greg Marshew leads the NRL for tackle breaks with 136 and has scored 8 tries in his past 8 games. The Knights have won 4 of their past 5 games against the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs have won 7 of their past 8 games at McDonald Jones Stadium. Bulldogs fullback Jake Averillo has scored 4 tries in his past 3 games. I'm going to tip Knights.